Welcome to Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, where our intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. Now, I want to make a bold statement. It is my belief that the greatest challenge facing men of color today isn't racism, isn't discrimination, police brutality, poverty, high incarceration rates. That is not, in my opinion, the greatest challenge we have. I believe the greatest challenge we have as men of color is our unwillingness to invest in our own potential. Now, at the same time, I do not deny that those challenges are real, because they are. There's no denying that. But what I know with absolute certainty is that as men of color, we have the capacity, we have the potential to be, to do, to create anything our heart desires. And so I am an optimist. As a matter of fact, I'll go as far as to say I am an irrepressible optimist, because I believe there's never been a better time to be alive than right now. And so what I'm doing is I'm bringing ordinary men who are doing extraordinary things in the world, because there's never been a lack of Black male role models. There's only been a lack of exposure of those role models. So here on this program, what we do is we highlight and showcase men of color who are doing remarkable things. And joining me tonight is a man who's doing just that. He's an extraordinary man. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a week or so ago. And it's interesting because he was on a podcast of a friend of mine. And this guy named Jason Gaddis, he runs a program called the Relationship School. And Jason and I, we go way back. And Jason happens to be a white guy. And so when I saw this guy on Jason's podcast, I'm thinking, wow, a brother hanging out with Jason? Let me check this out. So I listened to the podcast, and there was an immediate connection. And so I tracked this brother down on social media. I said, "God, look, we need to hang out. We need to get together." So I invited him to be on Shattering the Stereotypes, because he's definitely doing that. He's shattering the stereotypes about men of color. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Brandon Alexander to the show. Brandon, how you doing today, man?
Man, Mike, I'm like 1,000 times better after that intro. My God, I'm still chewing on everything you were just saying. I was like, my God, this man, you've got something special, man. My goodness.
Well, we've got something special, because see, another reason that I'm so optimistic about the future is when I see brothers like yourself who are doing some of the work that you're doing. And when I see young men like yourself that are out there pushing the envelope about what it means to be a man in today's ever-changing world, I get really excited, because it's easy to showcase and point fingers at everything that's wrong with society. But my intention is to shine the light on the things that are right. And what you're doing, I will assert, is right. And it's something that we sorely need. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I got to tell you, I've been doing this work for more than 25 years. And it's very seldom that I get to really connect on a deep, intimate level with another brother, because most brothers aren't willing to go there.
That's so true.
And so I know you are, and that's why I'm so glad to have you on the show. Now, today we're going to be talking about your program, the NewAgeGents, and your coaching and so forth. But before we get into that, I just wanted to kind of start off with a few icebreaker questions just to kind of get to know you a little bit. So first of all, share with the audience where you're from and just a little bit about growing up. What was that like?
Got you. So I'm originally from Killeen, Texas. And Texas all day, baby. You know what it is. Hold it down, you know. Growing up for me was family, Family Guy football. It was really a culture. It's a Texas culture. You can't knock it, man. A lot of people try to knock it. I don't think you can knock it. It made me into who I am today. I have an amazing mom who's a single mother of 6 kids. She raised us. She took care of us. She taught us all how to be just good people, kind people. Amazing family structure, I would have to say. I've had aunts, uncles, grandma was around. It was a big family. And everybody kind of just did what they could to bring love to each other, and then to take that love we was building and put it out into the world.
Nice. Now, I want you to think about a book.
Okay.
I know there's tons of them, but name a book that has impacted your life in a positive way.
Oh man, hands down, The Alchemist. Hands down, The Alchemist. Oh my God.
Great story. Great.
Yeah, man.
One of my favorites. One of my favorites. Now, if you like movies,
Okay.
share a movie that you love and tell us why you love it.
Oh, come on, dog. Gladiator. Gladiator is
Oh,
my movie. Like, Maximus is definitely one of those characters that you don't see that often. Like, he has honor, integrity, he loves his family, but will like go to work. Like, he's taking cats out left and right. Do you know what I'm saying? Because of his integrity and his how much he loves his family, he's not just somebody that wants to like kill to kill. He doesn't want to conquer to conquer. He doesn't want power. All he wants is to get back to his family and his life. Like, I just love that. And then he's just so calm in his confidence. Like, he was so calm in the middle of an arena, knowing that the dude up there, all he had to do was put his thumb down and it was over, or call his guards and it was over. And my man just stood there and was like, "Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?" I'm like, yo, this dude is a cold piece. He's a cold piece. This brother is cold. Then they go, sorry, but my man, they go and kill the man's family, right? Kill the man's family. And then he still finds some way to like try and go about things the right way.
Yeah, a true warrior.
A true warrior. Yeah.
True
I think that's why I connect with what you just said. Is probably why I connect with the movie so much. He's a true warrior.
There you go. And it's interesting because, like myself, you obviously have a passion for movies. I love movies. I love.
Come on.
There's so many lessons to be learned because movies to me are just metaphors for life. And
yes.
If we're willing to look at it with an open mind and an open heart, they can teach us about ourselves if we're willing to look. So thank you for sharing that passionate gladiator story. That was awesome. Now, I want you to imagine that I have this magic wand. And I'm going to give you this magic wand. And with this magic wand, you can create anything your heart desires. What would Brandon's life look like 10 years from now with that magic wand?
With that magic wand, huh? Oh, man. I was going to give you the Miss America, peace in the world speech. Honestly, man, it's on a ranch, enjoying a sunset on my patio with a rocking chair next to the woman that I love. My kids are happy and healthy, and I'm at peace with my life.
Nice. That's the dream.
That is it, man.
That's it, man. And I feel you, man, because that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
See, I'm old school, but as I mentioned, 17 years happily married.
Yeah.
And very few things warm my heart than just being with my wife. I tell you, and like I said, I've been divorced. I've been on that road, but with all the work that I've done and all the things that I'm really passionate about, being a great husband is a high priority for me.
Yeah.
So I admire you for having that vision of having that turn out, because you're going to manifest that. You're going to make that happen in your life. I already see it. Now,
these are icebreakers.
All right, next question. There are some people who are pessimistic about the future. And
okay.
Others like myself are pretty optimistic. So where do you fall on the spectrum between optimism and pessimism for your life and the world in general? Where do you fall?
A recovering pessimist.
Okay.
Yeah, I think because of my circumstances at a certain point in my life that I didn't know anything else. I didn't know another way to go about life, to do life. I didn't have the opportunity, I believe, to be optimistic. And I think the older that I got and the more positive people I surrounded myself by, it really helped to shape and mold my ideas around the world. And a quick story. I just moved to LA. I was maybe 19, and I was walking down the street one day with my head down, but I didn't realize my head was down. And this black store owner, it's probably like something out of a movie. He had this restaurant called Miss Peaches, and he was outside sweeping his storefront. And I was walking by him, and he said, "Pick your head up, young man." And that shifted my awareness of myself. because I didn't realize, when I look back, I was going through a rough time in my life, and I didn't really have the capacity as a person to be optimistic, because all I knew was it's just going to be this way forever. But that moment when he said, "Pick your head up, young man," you're talking 10 years later now. That moment was so defining for me, because it showed that if you change your posture, you'll change your thinking.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great story. Great story. Now, what would a perfect day look like for Brandon Alexander? What would you be? What would you be doing?
My dog. I just had one, actually.
Ah, okay.
I just had one. Yeah, man. My buddy, he got a ranch. But I went dirt biking. There was barbecue. I was outdoors. I was away from the noise and the hustle and bustle of the city. Not that I don't like the city, but my perfect day would be away from the city, away from the noise, in with people I love, people who I can laugh with, that I can hug, that I can share stories with and talk with. It would include dogs. It would include some horseback riding, potentially, because I don't really want to go anywhere if there ain't no horses there. Some whiskey and a cigar. Really, that's a perfect day for me. For me, the things that bring me so much joy, I found that they're just things that speak to me. They're things that speak to me. And as I look over my life, those are things that speak to me. And that, to me, is the perfect days, when you're surrounded by all the things that speak to your heart.
Nice. I love it. All right. That round is over. Next round.
Okay.
Now, I'd like you to introduce Brandon Alexander, the professional. So share with the audience what you do. Tell us a little bit about the organization and what you do.
So with NewAgeGents, it started back in 2013, and a friend of mine, Julian Mitchell, helped me to get started. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to start it. He's another Black man. He's an entrepreneur. And I was writing for this blog he had called The Love Project. And when he started The Love Project, and I was writing for it and sending stuff in, I remember one day he said, I was like, "Well, can I become a permanent writer?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, why not?" He says, "I want you to go start your own thing." And I said, "Well, I don't know how to start my own thing." He said, "All you have to do is just start." And that was the beginning of my journey to helping empower and uplift men around the world about what it means to be a gentleman. And I work with people about relationships and dating culture, and what it's like to be single. It's not easy. But you also want someone who you can relate to. You don't want someone who's married 30 years all the time telling you about how to date today. It's like, you've been out the game forever. You can't talk to me about this. I like to be in the trenches with everybody, and also help them to get to the goal that they want to achieve. For men, I like to help them get to the place where they can go within, do the healing work, look at themselves, reflect, grow, be honest with who they are, and get a healthy perspective of masculinity. But that's all done through the filter and the lens of what I would consider a modern day gentleman to be. And to me, a modern day gentleman is a man who is striving every day to be a little bit better than he was yesterday. It's not about money. It's not about job status. It's not about a title or who you're married to or where you live. It's about the man inside the suit. Whether you wear a suit, whether you don't wear a suit, it's all about the man. It's all about the make of who you are, the core of who you are, your character and your heart. And that's my mission, man, is to continue to build men like that. So it's on Instagram, it's a blog, it's merchandise. The merchandise even itself, it's a mission. I tell people it's not merchandise, it's a movement, it's a message. When you wear something that I've made with a message on it, I want people to feel like they embody that, gentleman by choice, a chivalrous gentleman. I want them to know that they embody this particular message and they're not afraid or ashamed to do it. And this all came about because of a couple of narratives that I feel like society was holding on to. And one of those narratives was no more good men exist. And the second one was chivalry is dead. And it sparked something in me, and it changed my life forever to kind of have this voice and to write articles, to do interviews, to do public speaking, to be working my first book, to be doing these things. sparked from some conversations. It really was about owning my voice and owning who God called me to be and walking in that power.
Now, here's what I know. There are only two things that will cause a man to change or want to change.
Mm-hmm.
One is pain,
and
the other is what I call divine discontent. So what challenged you to begin your inner journey?
Oh, Mike. My inner journey, let me see here. I'm thinking about what sparked NewAgeGents, but then I'm thinking about what sparked my inner journey. What sparked my actual inner journey as a person, I was 20, maybe a little bit younger than 20, and I wasn't getting anywhere in my career. I was a professional dancer for over roughly around 10 years. I was a professional dancer, and I didn't look the way I wanted. I wasn't booking the jobs I wanted. I wasn't having the relationships that I wanted. For some reason, I was just really stagnant and stuck. And I met this guy who had a particular body that I wanted. And I was like, yo, what do you do? And he's like, I go to the park. And I was like, you go to the park, you don't have a gym membership? And he's like, no, I just go to do pull-ups. And I was like, you're ripped, you're jacked. And he's like, I do pull-ups and I do dips. And I was like, all right, well, cool. He was like, yo, you want to get it in? Meet me, his name's Brian Marsh. He said, you want to get it in? Meet me at the park at this time. I flaked on him the first time. The second time, it was a Saturday. I'll never forget it. I walk up. He looks like Superman. He had his head shaved, no shirt on, gloves on, Adidas pants, and he's just killing pull-ups, right? Through that first day of working out, we became the best of friends and brothers, but something shifted, and he taught me some very valuable lessons about what I wanted. He taught me that I was getting in my own way in my life. I was coming from an environment in a very small town in Texas where a lot of stuff was circulating and that wasn't positive, and I had to get away from it. I love the city, but there was something that wasn't so positive that was pulling me in, and I had adopted these mindsets and ideas around life that I didn't understand were so ingrained in my subconscious, right? Like the limitation of $100 being a lot of money. Like, that's perspective. $100 is a lot of money to who? You know what I'm saying? That's somebody's $1 bill. You know what I'm saying? That's just an example. I wanted to use that as an example to kind of give you the idea of like what your mind and how you think in your mind. And through that process, he introduced me to different books and Eckhart Tolle and meditation and diving in deep to like who I was as a person, and then watching myself have these breakthroughs through my physical change and shift and transformation, but then my mental shift and change and transformation, because after that period, I think after the second month of working out, I started booking so many dance jobs back to back to back. And I started to see the results of putting the positive energy out and telling people movement is medicine, health is wealth, love, be loved, telling people that and living that changed everything for me. I became preachy to people. I became too positive for people because I was so influenced. I was so influenced by this shift in my life that I was like, I want this for everybody. I want everybody to feel what I feel when it comes to being positive and being uplifted. There's a video of Will Smith that I've watched 1,000 times, and it's like this motivational one. And he's talking about the power of it and the law of attraction, these different things. And the clip from The Pursuit of Happiness is in it. But that period of my life is really defined by like an overhaul of positivity, where it used to be so fulfilled with negativity, and I didn't have any idea of self and identity at that point in my life. But having someone there for me to help me see my greatness shifted everything for me, to believe what was possible, to increase my faith that I said I had as a Christian, to really believe in the unseen, and then to just know that I could do anything I put my mind to.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to go back 1995.
Okay.
I wrote my first book. The book was titled Brothers, Are You Listening? A Success Guide for the 90s. And I wrote that book as a result of a conversation that I heard between these two young black males. I was in a restaurant, and these two guys were having a conversation, and to be completely honest, it was one of the most heartbreaking, depressing conversations I've ever heard. They were
Mm.
talking about the eradication of black men from society. I mean, it was the ultimate victim conversation that you can ever imagine. And so
Right.
I walked over to their table. I apologized for eavesdropping, but I looked at one of the guys and I said, man, please tell me you really don't believe what you just said. And one of the young men looked at me. And it really wasn't what he said, but how he said it that really broke my heart. He looked at me and he says, absolutely, I believe that. He says, man, don't you watch the news? He said, I believe in 20 years, all black men are either going to be dead or in jail.
Wow.
And it broke my heart. I was like,
Yeah.
and I knew there was nothing that I could have said that would have changed his mind.
Yeah.
So I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. And I walked away. Now,
yeah.
as I'm walking away, there was a part of me that somehow knew I was supposed to do something.
Mm.
I had no idea what it was. I didn't have any experience writing books. As a matter of fact, my life at the time was in total chaos. I was in the middle, I had gone through a divorce, a bankruptcy, a foreclosure. I mean, my life was a mess. But that conversation stirred something in me.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I made a commitment that I was going to do something to change the mindset of black men.
Yes, sir.
Now, fast forward about 5 years, I was able to rebuild my life, and I had written this book called Brothers, Are You Listening?
Mm.
And I started doing radio interviews. And one of the chapters in the book is called Personal Growth, an Investment in Self.
Mm.
And in that chapter, I was talking about the importance of healing, emotional healing.
Yeah.
And getting in touch with our feelings, the big F word. And I got to tell you, I was shocked how when I was on some major radio stations, how black men were attacking me and accusing me of trying to be white because I was talking about dealing with my feelings and our feelings as a group.
Right.
So I'm curious, have you had any pushback as a man who happens to be black? Have you had any pushback? And again, I'm hoping, obviously it's been 25 years since I first started. Now I see people like you talk. What's been your experience as a man who happens to be black talking about emotional issues? With black people. Not that you limit it to black people, but generally.
No. That's what I just went there because I've been looking at how my page is received and how my messaging is received within the space by my people. I have a very large Caucasian audience. It's a very large Caucasian audience. Most of them are in Canada, I think, because they're into like consciousness and mindfulness. But I look and I say two things. Where are the men and where are my people? They're there, but I'm like, I'll look at, and this isn't comparison, I watch and I pay attention to what language is being used that draws a particular crowd. And what I've noticed is if you talk the way you and I talk, it doesn't align with a particular lifestyle cultural narrative that people are used to. So if we're not talking about, and this isn't a knock, but if you're not always talking about, hey, king, hey, queen, black love, and that's the only message you have, you almost don't really exist in that space unless someone says, yo, check out what he's doing. I promise you, if I shifted my language tomorrow, my entire audience would change because of my language. I don't want to limit my messaging to a particular message about black love or black men. if there are topics that speak to me about being Black within my messaging about men as a whole, then I will voice that without shame or hesitation. But I've noticed if you're not always talking about Black, it doesn't really resonate with the mass majority of a Black audience.
Oh,
That's what I've noticed. That's
Yeah.
what I've noticed. I have to put Black something or Afro this for it to get a response. If I post like a buff dude with a fade and a chick with an afro and a fat butt and they're hugging tight, it's a wrap. You can forget about they're coming. But I try my best to really have representation across the board. I'll post a Latino couple, I'll post an Asian couple, I'll post an interracial couple. So there's not really a negative response coming at me. No one's like, oh, you trying to act white or you white or whatever the case may be. No one's coming at me like that. But I had this conversation with someone the other day, and it was really interesting to me because they told me, and I have to just say it, they told me don't limit yourself because you don't know why the Black audience isn't really rocking with you like that. You don't have a group message, you have a world message. And I had to accept that because being a Black man, I support men of color so tough. I wrote a guy the other day, I love his messaging. I won't say who he is, but I wrote him the other day. I was like, I love what you're doing because he's doing what we're doing. His language, how he goes about it is a little bit different. But I said, any way I can support you, I'll support you. I message these guys individually because I'm not competing with any of them.
Right.
But if you become the dude who's trying to be conscious because it's cool, I can't support that.
Right.
If you're conscious because it's cool, and if you're mindful because it gets you women, I can't really do anything with that. But if I see a Black man who is really like, yo, I want to see men, our men have healthy relationships. I want to see us get through our trauma. My boy Bache Williams, he's a therapist. He's a Black therapist, but he's so articulate, so well spoken. You know what I'm saying? Like, men like him, I'm like, yo, you are it. You are the example that we don't have to live or look or talk a certain way. You're the example of that. And I support that 1,000%, and he supports me 1,000%. I am seeing a shift happen right now, but I don't know if it's because my support has grown. I think because the support has grown, I think people are now being more attracted to the actual messaging that I'm putting out there. I think that's played a part in it. But ultimately, because I think about this a lot, I can't hide this. I can't hide this. I can't hide this. I don't want to hide it. I'm very proud of it. But I'm also not going to beg a community to come support.
Well, again, this is another reason why I'm so optimistic, because there is still, and again, just from my own experience, a lot of pushback when you don't include the black,
right?
Because I personally, I think there are two worldviews, and here are the two worldviews. There's what some people might call an ethnocentric worldview, which basically implies that as human beings, we're different and separate because of ethnicity. So that's the predominant narrative in our society. And then there's a humanistic worldview, meaning as human beings, we're all the same. We're all connected intimately.
Right.
And yet, to say something like that as a Black man, a lot of times I get accused of denying my ethnicity, when in reality, I'm simply affirming my humanity.
Come on.
And what I am as a human being.
Yes.
And so the key, as I mentioned at the beginning, for us as men of color is to be willing to let go of our attachment to being Black, to understand that we are men who happen to be Black,
yes,
not just Black men. And that's a real hard thing to get across.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been fighting this battle for 20 years.
Yeah.
But again, I do believe things are changing.
Yeah, they are.
I think we are becoming more open-minded. And as I mentioned, I'm an optimist. But that's why I think it's so important to have these types of conversations. And that's why I put this platform together, because we as men of color can change that narrative by doing exactly what we're doing right now.
Yes. Yes.
By exposing ourselves to different ways of thinking. But ultimately, what it boils down to is our willingness to embrace our humanness.
Yes.
That's Michael Taylor's belief. And so the challenge for us as men of color is to be willing to do that inner work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To address trauma in our lives. That willingness to look at addictions and what's driving addictions. And so that has nothing to do with the color of our skin. That's about pain. That's about hurt. That's about what's going on inside of us. So these conversations, I hope, simply opens the door, because it creates a dialogue to challenge men of color to go, never thought about it that way. So that's why this conversation is so important. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this whole idea of New Age gents, because when I saw that, my first thought, because for a long time I was really into the New Age movement, which is a spiritual movement. Which
I know more. People hit me up all the time talking about, oh, you out here spreading that New Age. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
So I definitely got a lot of pushback when I really got involved from a spiritual perspective. And it's interesting because I am a former atheist who was once at one point in my life absolutely convinced that there's nothing greater than myself in the universe. But once I did create that spiritual intimacy and connection with that higher source, it changed everything for me. But when you say New Age gents, we're talking about men embracing a new paradigm of masculinity. Would that?
Yes, sir. That's it. That's it.
All right. So when we think about what it means to be a man, and once again, we're not talking about race. We're talking about masculinity.
Come on.
And we talk about, I wrote a book called A New Conversation with Men. And in that book, I shared what was called the 5 illusions of manhood. I want to share those real quickly because it ties right into what we're talking about. These 5 illusions are what cause the majority of pain and suffering in a man's life. Doesn't matter what color you are. Right. Illusion number 1, to be a man, you must be non-emotional and disconnected. Okay? That's illusion number 1. Illusion number 2, you must use sexual conquest as a gauge for manhood. Illusion number 3, to be a man, you must have money and material possessions. Illusion number 4, to be a man, you must have titles, positions, and power. And illusion number 5 is to be a man, you must constantly compete with and try to outdo other men. If you look at those 5 illusions, and you look at men that are struggling or stuck in life, I guarantee you they're trapped in one of those illusions.
Shit, not more than one. You out here trying to get the sexual conquest, but you ain't got no money. You ain't got no money, so you all over the place.
So what I'm hearing you say is, with this New Age gent, you're helping men wake up from those illusions.
My God, yes. That is the mission on a daily basis. That's it. That's it.
So tell us a little bit about how you do that. Now, is it through coaching? It's through workshops? What do you do other than your blog and your site? What do you do to empower men to embrace this new idea of masculinity?
One of them is definitely workshops, you know, going to relationship workshops, speaking at relationship workshops, creating relationship workshops. I have men's groups that I've created, little pods I've created to create that space where men feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Even participating in my private time in these men's groups, with taking whatever it is that I want to bring into the world, into those groups, because I'm my walking mission. So it goes with me wherever I go. But what I try my best to do is to have a space that's a forum and an open conversation where other ideas can be, or other men can be exposed to new ideas. And a man might say something that may help another man do that. Sometimes I'll have one-on-one calls with guys. I don't really like to call them coaching calls. I just like to be there for somebody. I don't really want to put the label of coaching on it. My friend told me I need to own the fact that I'm a coach and a teacher. But for right now, the space that I'm in, if a man wants to have a conversation with me, I make time for that. I make time to talk with him man to man and say, okay, well, how can I be here for you? What's up? And have those conversations. I've seen such a transformative power in feeling safe enough to be like, yo, I really like her. I don't know what to do. Or I'm struggling with money right now, and I don't, whatever. Saying the things you wouldn't normally say in front of another man, knowing that you feel safe enough to say them with me, I think that's the biggest part of the work, is them taking the first step of admitting or sharing something that they wouldn't normally share in under any other circumstances. That, I think that's the biggest key for men, is they feel safe enough to share things that they wouldn't normally share with anybody else.
Yeah, so I want to touch on that, because this herein lies the key to our transformation as men, especially as men of color.
Yeah.
To be willing to put ourselves in a safe space.
Yeah.
That allows us to be vulnerable, to allow us to open our hearts and our minds. And that's a foreign concept to a lot of men, period.
Yeah.
Specifically for men of color, because we have a couple of things going against us. Psychologically, I think we have the challenge of overcoming the mindset that Black people don't. You know, we have that mindset that, you know, that's what white people do. And so there's this resistance that if we have a problem, you know, generally speaking, what do? Well, we go to Jesus.
Yes.
And we don't want to really put ourselves in an environment that can support us in our transformation. So for those of you who are watching this, here's what I want to share. If you are truly committed to your personal growth and transformation, first and foremost, you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
And I believe the three most difficult words for any man to say is, I need help.
Yes, sir.
So the first thing you got to be willing to do is surrender. Recognize that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Sometimes we're so afraid that people aren't going to understand our pain. We think that our pain is the only pain and nobody's going to really understand and can support me in moving through the pain. Trust me, pain is pain. If you put yourself in an environment where you trust and you allow yourself to be supported, and you know you're not going to be judged or criticized, and you can just be real.
Yeah.
And allow whatever is there to be brought forth, I can assure you, you can heal and be transformed.
That's the truth.
But the key is you got to get out of your head. You got to stop trying to figure it all out, and you got to connect to your heart. And it's been said that the longest journey is the 16 inches from your head to your heart. And it's a tough journey. It's not an easy journey. But what I know from my own experience is that there's nothing more freeing than emotional healing. You can have all the money in the world. You can have all the sex in the world. You can have all the stuff in the world. But if there's that hole in your soul, something will always be missing. And so the work we're talking about, it's about feeling that hole in your soul.
Mm.
We all have it.
Mm-hmm.
We've all experienced it. And so I use the term divine discontent,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really powerful way of expressing that there's something going on inside of us that we don't really have the words for, but it's just a feeling. It's an inner knowing that my life could be better.
Mm.
It's an inner knowing that, you know, there's something just off, and I want to, whatever that is, I want to fix it. I want to heal. I want to, and like I said, I remember 25 years ago when I first began this process, it was really confusing because I was trying to wrap my head around it all.
Mm.
I was trying to understand it. So I'd read books and I'd have the words and I could tell you what it was, but it wasn't until I healed my heart and did that inner work that things changed. So if you don't get anything else out of this conversation, know that what we're sharing here is a possibility.
Yeah.
And that possibility is that you can feel joyful. You can feel connected.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel enough. Because what drives a lot of our behavior is this idea that we aren't enough. We aren't good enough, you know, we don't look good enough, we're not cute, you know, all these crazy ideas that we hold about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the conversation here is about you being willing to transform yourself from the inside out. That's my tagline as a coach. I'm a coach. I'm a motivational speaker. That's my thing. That's my thing. You have to be willing to transform yourself from the inside out. It's an inside job. That means head and heart working together. Now, boy, time flies when you're having fun. I wanted to touch base on something that I think is really important, Brandon, because this is 2019. And like I said, I'm old school.
Right, right.
And one of the things that we as men don't talk about are the challenges of relationships.
Yeah.
And specifically the challenges of finding a relationship. Now, here's something that I remember. After my divorce, my relationships were a disaster. It was awful. It was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a pity party once, and this lady said something that shook my world. I was telling her, you know, you women say you want a good man, and I'm a good man, but I can't find a good woman. And I had all these excuses.
Uh-oh.
And this woman looks at me and she says, Michael, you know, if one person calls you a jackass, you probably shouldn't worry about it. But if two or more do, you better get a saddle. Have you not noticed that you're the only common denominator in your relationships? So maybe it's not the women in your life. Maybe it's you.
Right.
Rocked my world.
Yeah.
In that moment, I heard her.
Yeah.
And I realized that I needed to do some work.
Yeah.
And so I took some time to unpack my emotional baggage. And as a result, I found the woman of my dreams. And I've been blissfully married, like I said, for the last 17 years, have been together 20 years. So I want to, Brandon, just kind of touch bases. First of all, for the men who are watching this, don't be afraid to say you don't know.
Hey now. Hey.
Don't be afraid to say you don't know. It's like we're supposed to know how to do this thing called relationships. And most of us didn't have good role models anyway.
Yeah. Or even in a relationship, not being afraid to say, I don't know. I feel something that we do sometimes is that we want to have the answer to something. She says, well, can you fix this? Can you build this? Can you do this? Do you know how to do that? And because your pride and ego get in the way, he's like, yeah, sure, I can do it. As you YouTube and Google it along the way. You don't know. And I had to learn that. I learned that earlier because I was tired of hiding.
Yeah.
I was tired of hiding. If my whole identity as a man is solely based on me changing the tire, which I mean, I know how to do, but there are other things that I was trying to make up for that I didn't really know how to do. Like, so don't be afraid to say, I don't know. She wants you to put the towel in the kitchen. I don't know how to do that. She wants you to, whoever, whatever. Don't be afraid and humble enough to say, you know what, actually, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out.
Yeah. But here's the point that I want to make for the men.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest mistake we make as men is when we have a failed relationship, we don't take the time to look at ourselves to see how we contributed to the failure of that relationship so we don't repeat that same pattern.
Yeah.
Because statistics will show you men remarry faster than women. Because most men, whether they will admit it or not, just like women, are afraid to be alone.
Yeah.
And don't want to take the time to do their inner work
Mm-hmm.
to figure out why their relationship didn't work out.
Right.
I don't want you to make that same mistake. Now, Brandon, what I know is you are a man who's been doing some work.
Yes, sir.
And you've now set an intention to ultimately find that perfect mate.
Yeah.
I get that. That's what you're about. I get it. I mean, here's a man that's talking about he's got a magic wand and all he wants is his perfect person next to him on a porch. That's a powerful thing. But I want you to just talk to the men, because I can't even imagine what it's like to be single these days with Tinder and social media and all of that. But what I do remember is when I started doing my work, how difficult it was for me to find the right person, because, and specifically Black women, they looked at me like I had two heads.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was talking about emotional vulnerability and emotional honesty and all of that. And they were like, whoa. Because women say they want a man that connect with emotionally, but when it gets really down to it, not a lot of women are prepared for men that are, shall I say, conscious. So talk a little bit.
The word you used was perfect. Prepared. I think prepared is perfect. Man, wow. There's so much to dive into. I think where I would like to start is I noticed the more I healed and the more I took care of me, the more attractive I became. It's interesting. And though you may become attractive, it doesn't mean you have to accept every attraction and every invitation. You don't have to. But it is an indicator, I believe. It's an indicator, I believe, of you being in a place where you go from desperation and neediness to owning and knowing who you are as a person. And I think the thing you touched on that I had an issue with in my earlier 20s was I didn't know how to get the healing I needed emotionally. You can do the mental work, but the emotional work started later. The emotional work was when I started to realize my habit of going from, one girl that I would have sex with for 6 months without really committing or being in a relationship to going to another girl and having sex for, whatever period of time, not being committed, not being in a relationship, and X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z, but always having this longing feeling of unfulfillment and wondering, what the heck is this? What is missing? The sex is good. She's cute. So why do I still feel this little piece of me that's not really fulfilled? It's because I was trying to get something from something that I was never meant to get that from. I don't think those sex is a part of intimacy and connection. I don't think the fulfillment of true connection and relationship can be obtained within the limitations and the confines of two people having sex within an hour to 30-minute span. It's the tough conversations. It's someone holding me. It's someone listening to my dreams. It's someone listening to my nightmares. It's someone holding me. It's someone accepting Brandon in all of his ways. The fact that I like horses and being outside, respecting the fact that I like to be alone. That takes up 90% of relationship. And I would say 10% is the physical attraction, sex, and everything else that comes with it. But it's a weird thing that we do, and I think a lot of men do it, is society is telling them, look over here at the 10% because it's so important. But in reality, the fulfillment of having a partner and the beauty of women, oh my God, the beauty of women, is in the 90%. It's in the 90. And when you focus on the 90, oh my God, that 10% becomes so bomb and so valuable. But you lose value if you're only focused on the 10%. oh, we're going to hook up tonight. Go down on her. She goes down on me. We're going to do whatever. Orgasms are not the end all be all of relationship. They're not. And I think, unfortunately, society's narrative that men want sex and men are sex driven and all that stuff really fuels us. We find pornography at ages 10 and 11. And that starts to actually push a part of us that I think is perverted. It's perverted. It takes what I believe is meant to have genuine relationship and connection, and it puts it in to say, well, if society's telling me to have sex, if the guys I'm hanging around with is telling me to have sex, this video looks like this is how a guy connects to a girl. This is how I need to connect to a girl. Instead of teaching our young boys to sit down and have an intimate conversation, it has to be deep. It doesn't have to be super like a philosophical or anything like that. But to have a meaningful conversation with another person about who they are, where they come from, what they like, what they dislike, I think changes everything about relationship. And so for the single men out there, I'm not shunning, I'm not shaming, I'm not taking away sex. Sex is beautiful, it is powerful, but it is not what creates, to me, genuine connection in relationship. It can be a piece, it can be introduction. But what are you going to do with the other 90% of your time when you're with this person?
Yep. And that's the key, because when you truly love someone, once again, I'm old school.
I'm old school.
Old, 17 years, happily married. What I have come to know is that true love occurs within the mundaneness of a relationship.
Oh, that's the one.
Here's what I mean.
Yeah.
My wife and I, in some ways, are completely opposites from the standpoint of, I love books. I love deep 3-hour conversations about the origin of the universe, and she could care less about any of that stuff, right? That's just not her. But here's what I know. As human beings, we are wired for connection.
Yes, sir.
We are wired for connection. But most of us don't know how to get that connection. And so with my wife, here's what I know. In the mundaneness of the relationship, the love is even deeper. Because what I know with every fiber of my being is that this woman loves and adores me just for me.
Yeah.
Not what I have, not what I can do. She just loves me for me.
Yeah.
Now, I had to unpack my baggage to be able to accept that. Because there was a time in my life when I wore this Mr. Nice Guy mask, and I was always trying to be Mr. Nice Guy perfect.
Yes.
Based on my fear of abandonment, fear of intimacy. But by taking down those walls, unpacking my baggage, I now have allowed myself to be loved at the deepest level possible that I've always known was possible.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go through my process and healing to get there. But men, I want you to know that it's possible. And I also want you to know nothing comes close to having a relationship with someone that you authentically know loves you unconditionally.
Additionally, yeah.
Nothing comes close. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how much stuff you have. If you've never experienced the authentic love from a woman, or a partner, if you're same sex, I don't know what that's like, but to have that experience of knowing you are loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what life's about.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Whoa. Where'd the time go? All right. You good with time? You okay for a few more minutes?
Yeah. I just wanted to add a little bit in there because we're talking about this and it was really on my heart, but it's the self-work that you're talking about. I want to say to the men, pay attention to what you're using to medicate your pain with.
Ooh, yeah.
How are you medicating your pain? Is it the bottle? Is it gambling? Is it sex? Is it weed? Is it coke? Is it heroin? What are you doing to medicate your pain? And examine that, especially if you're in a place where you don't want to feel the way you feel anymore. Examine that. For me, at one period, it was alcohol. another period it was sex. But I knew for myself, I was like, this cannot be it. And through doing work and being exposed to different experiences and people and conversations and books, ultimately I had to learn how to take care of me. I had to go back and look at the areas where I felt like as a child I was abandoned, or I was hurt, or no one was there for me, and whatever the love story was in my head. I had to go back and I had to go inside. I said, how can I be here for me? How can I take care of me? Because I'm never going to leave me. I'm never going to stop loving me. I'm going to forgive me. I'm going to have compassion for me. When I had all those things, I started to fill up on the inside in a way that I can't even explain, because now I know if I need time for Brandon, I'm going to go take time for Brandon, and it makes me so at peace with my life. And I don't have to worry about, well, how is this going to look to someone else? How is this going to look to my friends? How is this going to look to my girlfriend? If you love me as a person, you will understand that this is necessary for my mental health, my well-being, my spiritual being, my heart and my mind. I need to do whatever that thing is in that moment that's healthy, I believe healthy, and do that. If it's exercising for an hour, that's my time to be with me and take care of me in the best way that I know how.
Now, man, I want you to hear this, because Brandon talks about some ways that we hide our pain. Mm-hmm. Another way we hide our pain and we don't recognize it is work.
Talk about it. Yes, sir.
Me, it's difficult to explain, but workaholism is just as painful internally, I believe, as any other addiction. Because for me, I was driven by such a deep sense of shame. The way I tried to feel good about myself was through the things that I accomplished. Mm-hmm. So that workaholism was my way of trying to anesthetize my pain, but it only lasted for so long.
Yeah.
But what it does is it drains you, because you're pretending. You're pretending to be something that you aren't. And so you got to understand that we use these things to medicate ourselves, to anesthetize ourselves from pain. But it isn't until we heal that pain and allow ourselves to feel that pain.
Feel the pain, yeah.
Release that pain, that we can be free. And it's been said that if you can feel it, you can heal it. So if you don't get anything else out of this, understand the importance of your emotional health. Now, there's a lot of talk in the media right now about mental health. I have a different perspective.
Okay.
I don't think it's as much mental as it is emotional, because I believe, as Einstein said, everything is energy. That's mm-hmm. just the way that it is. He said,
right,
frequency of the reality that you want to create, and there's no way you can't create that reality. Mm. And he said, this isn't philosophy. This is physics. So there's a science to this. And here's what I believe. Mm-hmm. Unhealed emotional pain stays trapped in our bodies until we release it.
Yeah.
So if we're carrying around a lot of pain, which we all are to some degree, it will sabotage us in ways that we are unconscious of.
Yeah. So
the work we're talking about is the releasing of this pain. And we all have it.
Yeah.
And Carl Jung said this. He says, there's no coming to consciousness without pain. He said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls.
Yeah.
You do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In other words, we've got to be willing to shine the light on those dark places that we're afraid to shine the light on. But when we do, we become free. And ultimately, that's what we really want. We want to be free. We want to be free to be who we are. And one of the things that we may not talk about as men of color is self-love.
Yeah.
Self-compassion.
Yeah.
Being good to ourselves. No, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Self-care is important because you can't love someone else if you don't love yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really summarizes this whole conversation. Do you love yourself?
Yeah.
Authentically? Because
Yeah.
that's where I want you to get to. I want you to get to that place of self-love, because that's not arrogance. Don't confuse that with arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
Self-love is the knowing that you're perfect just the way you are, flaws and all. Flaws and all.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about, man. So, all right, man, here we need to give you an opportunity to share. How can men get in touch with you if they want to have a conversation with you? They want to connect with you. What's the best way to reach you?
Man, you can reach me on my digital platforms, NewAgeGents on Instagram or Facebook. Just reach out to me. You can instant message me. I'm pretty good at getting back to you. If that's what you want to do, please, by all means, I welcome it. I can't wait to connect with more men like Mike. Oh, man, this was beautiful, man. This was so good. Oh, my God.
So now, and also there will be a link below the video on the site, so you'll have access to his social media properties. But now, Brandon, I want to give you an opportunity just your closing thoughts, final words of wisdom to the men who are watching this, whatever you feel moved to share.
I want to say to you, learn to love all the parts of yourself. For me, I had to learn to accept the quirky part of me, with the powerful part of me, with the stubborn part of me, with the part of me that is fearful. I had to learn how to love that part of me. And it so profoundly changed my life. And I see so many men who have a hard time doing that. They want to love this particular part because it looked good, it feels good, but they ignore all the other parts that make them who they are. My anger makes me just as much as who I am, as my happy part makes me who I am, as my family part makes me who I am, as my creative part of me makes me who I am. But if I ignore a part of me, then I'm neglecting myself and I'm rejecting myself. You have to learn to accept all of who you are. And if you want to work through it, if you want to be fully in who you are, all parts of your body, mind, body, spirit, everything, you have to learn to look at all of who you are and find the beauty in it. Find the beauty in the broken pieces. Find the beauty in the whole pieces. Find the beauty in the mistakes. Find the beauty in the successes. But know that it is all of you. And not one thing in you is better than another part of you. Because you can't have the light in you if you don't have some darkness in you. Accept it, love it, embrace it, walk with it.
That's what it's all about, my brother.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. So,
sheesh.
Again, this is why I do this show, because what we're doing here is we're changing the narrative. Now, this is about men of color specifically. Mm-hmm. That's what this platform is about. But recognize, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it's really about personal transformation. It's about you embracing your humanness. And that's not denying your ethnicity. You are a man who happens to be black.
Be black.
Be blessed by that. Be proud of that.
Yeah.
But your power doesn't come from your skin.
Yeah. Your
true, authentic power comes from within.
Yeah.
So know that you are loved. Know that you're not alone. And that there are resources to support and empower you to reach your full potential. And that's what we want for you.
Yes, sir.
That's what we want for you. So,
yes, sir.
Brandon, my brother, I love you, man.
This was amazing.
Absolutely just blown away, because in some ways, I kind of feel like I'm passing the torch. I've been doing this for a long time. And when I see young brothers like yourself that are carrying it on, my heart is full, because I know that it's in good hands, man. Brothers like yourself who are doing this work. There's no threat to us as men of color. Never has been. But it's up to us now to become conscious, to become aware. And so, again, I'm just honored, man, to meet you, to have you as part of my inner circle now, because as I mentioned, we're destined to do some amazing things together. So
absolutely.
looking forward to whatever the universe has next in store for us. But I know that we've been connected for a divine reason. And I feel blessed and honored to have you in my presence.
Thank you, Mike. I love you too, man. I'm sending you nothing but love, man. Nothing but love.
So this has been another episode of Shatter the Stereotypes, where we empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. So go out there and make your life extraordinary. We'll see you next episode. Take care.